Okay, I'm audible on the web. Over here. Yes. Okay then. So I think in the last class we have discussed about some of the Docker stuff. Okay. In that I have asked you one question. My expression was not working. What is the fix for that? Pardon me? Have you tried that? Yes. So tell me what is the answer for that. How many of you have found the answer? What is it? Pardon me? Okay. No. No. Only one student gave me the right answer and I was very happy. Okay. I think she is Dhanalakshmi. Have you tried it? Yes. For the people who have tried it, you can come and ask me. I'll tell the answer, not in the classroom. Okay. For the people who have not tried it, I am sorry for you. That is an interview question. You are going to lose your job. I will not share the answer, man. If I ask the question, I would expect you to find the answer. మీరు రోజు నన్ను ఇబ్బంది పెట్టట్లా 100 సార్లు క్వశ్చన్లు అడిగి నేను మిమ్మల్ని అప్పుడప్పుడు ఇబ్బంది పెట్టాలి కదా, రైట్? ప్లీజ్ టెల్లా బాబోయ్ ఏంటి బతిలాడుతున్నారు నన్ను. If you run the same thing again, you will come to know what is an answer. There was only one student who have given me the right answer. Okay, fine. Now it is your career, your choice. I can't help it. Alright? Try doing that. Let me get into Kubernetes. Expose need to be used. No, sir. ఓకే. సమాధానం చెప్తే కార్ ఇంజిన్ ఎందుకు పనిచేస్తలేదంటే టైర్లు మార్చాలంటే దానికి ఆన్సర్ ఏమైనా సంబంధం ఉందా? కార్ ఇంజిన్ ఈజ్ నాట్ స్టార్టింగ్. యూ గో టు ద మెకానిక్ and he will tell you that no, you need to replace tires. Is there any relation? Right? Okay. So car start avvadaniki tires ఏమైనా సంబంధం ఉందా? Right? Your answer is also same thing. Expose and environmental variable have nothing in common. They will not impact. Okay? Right. Expose is not the answer. Sorry, what's the question? Wonderful, sir. There is nothing to worry about it. Okay? So if you don't know the question, there is no need to search for answer. ప్రశ్న తెలియనప్పుడు సమాధానం ఎతకాల్సిన అవసరమే లేదు, రైట్? సో ఐ didn't attend yesterday's first half. Oh, sorry. So it was my problem, is it? So go through the recording, then come to know about a question, then find out the answer, right? Okay then, right? Yeah, I would expect that you are attending classes every day. Okay, my class will be with that assumption. Okay, and yesterday there was one mistake that has happened. On the Thursday's class, we have discussed that Saturday and Sunday in the morning first half, it is going to be the Kubernetes class. And Saturday in the evening, we are going to have a Linux class. But by mistake, there will be human errors and Quality Thought admin team have sent it in a different way. Okay? Saturday in the morning Kubernetes and evening in the Kubernetes. Alright? So suddenly people started screaming at Quality Thought's administration saying that, okay, your class is supposed to happen on Saturday evening. But if you have attended my classes on Thursday, okay, you would have made out that the class was not on Saturday evening, it is on Sunday morning. Okay, let us assume you have not attended on Thursday. At least I will expect by Friday you will finish Thursday's recording, right? Right? ఓకే, ఎదుటోళ్ళ మీద అరిసే ముందు మనం గొప్పవాళ్ళమా అన్న ఒక్క ప్రశ్న మనల్ని మనం వేసుకుంటే సగం తెలిసిపోద్ది సమాధానం, రైట్? So for the people who have screamed or who have shouted at it, I said that whenever something like this happen, you can bring the phone to the classroom and let me answer it. My answer to those people is, why didn't you finish your Thursday's recording till Sunday morning? Yeah, or till Saturday morning at least. థర్స్డే రికార్డింగ్ సండే మార్నింగ్ వరకు, సాటర్డే మార్నింగ్ వరకు చూడలేదా? అంటే ఎప్పుడు చూస్తారు? వచ్చే ఆర్థిక సంవత్సరంలోనా? రైట్? ఇప్పుడు కుదరదండి, ఇన్కమ్ ట్యాక్స్ సబ్మిషన్లు గట్టా ఉన్నాయి, అవన్నీ అయ్యాక మార్చి 31 తర్వాత ఏప్రిల్ 1 నుండి చేస్తాం. లేదంటే ఉగాది కొత్త సంవత్సరం వస్తుంది కదా, ఈ సంవత్సరం నా రాశులు పెద్దగా కలిసి రాదు, అలాంటప్పుడు ఉగాది తర్వాతే చేయనవలసింది, రైట్? సో యా, okay, I know that it was a mistake, there was some communication gap that shouldn't have happened, but errors happen, we are human. Are you doing everything correctly? Yes? Yeah? Okay. It is very, very easy to blame others, man. Okay? So for example, in the morning in the Azure class, I was supposed to clean up my SQL server on the laptop. I have not done it, but I know that I have not done it. I am sorry about it. Okay? But I have a workaround also. Yeah? So that's it. తప్పులు మనము చేస్తాం. నిన్న నేను చెప్పిన వర్క్ చాలా ఈజియెస్ట్ సొల్యూషన్. ద ఓన్లీ థింగ్ విచ్ హ్యావ్ టు హ్యావ్ ఇస్ అబ్జర్వేషన్. ఓకే, అన్ఫార్చునేట్లీ వీ హ్యావ్ అప్రాక్సిమేట్లీ 150 people on the line online and approximately 100 people in the classroom, and out of this 250 people there was only one student, okay, who has just finished graduation, okay, quite recently. Okay, a homemaker who is interested into coming into technology. She was able to tell the answer. Now you tell me, she didn't had any, after graduation she had a gap, but she was able to tell it. Not as why? ఏమందరూ పొద్దున ఆడే చెప్తాడు, నేనేం చెప్తాను, నాకు అవసరం లేదు. ఇట్ ఈస్ యువర్ కెరియర్, నాట్ మైన్. ఓకే, ఇఫ్ యూ హ్యావ్ re-executed, you would have found the answer. I'm telling this, right? Okay. Just re-execution will tell you the answer. Okay. Fine? Yes? Okay, good. Now, let us get into Kubernetes. And in Kubernetes, I'll start with the topic which is called as Kubernetes objects. Okay? So, what is an object in Kubernetes? Okay. Anything that can be persisted. Anything that can be persisted. I am quite sure that we have been speaking about this word called as persistent from even in the last week when we spoke about FS tab, we said that mounts will not be persisted. That's where you are supposed to use something called as FS tab. Okay, so persistent memory or persistent storage, a storage which will remember. Okay, now Kubernetes object is something which can be persisted, which means that which can be stored and retrieved, which will not be lost. Okay, any information about Kubernetes which can be stored is an object. Okay, and when I say store, where it will be stored? In Kubernetes, where is all the memory of Kubernetes in? At CD. That's it. So Kubernetes object is something which can be persisted in at CD. Okay, so right, let me get into Kubernetes objects, and I am using Kubernetes documentation itself because that is far better. I really don't need anything apart from this. Okay, right. Okay, Kubernetes calls it as record of intent. Kubernetes calls your object as record of intent, which means that it can store something. Okay, and to tell any object, to specify any object, you will have something called a specification. You have two important things. Every Kubernetes object has a specification and a status. Specification you will tell about your desired state. Status is about actual state. Am I clear on this? I think we have been discussing about actual state and desired state. In Kubernetes object, what will you tell about? You will tell about desired state. What is the state which you want? And Kubernetes status will tell about what is the status which it has. And Kubernetes will try to make actual state and desired state at a same point. Okay. So if you said that I want to do something, so first you should be able to tell it in a desired state fashion, and for that desired state fashion you have to write a specification. Okay. So Kubernetes objects, okay, are persistent entities of Kubernetes system. That's what it is. Okay. Anything which you can save in Kubernetes is an object. Okay. And every object has a spec, okay, which they call it as object spec. Okay. I am quite sure that I have said about pod. So you'll have something called as pod spec. And then you will have object status, which will be, for the pod, it will be pod status. Tomorrow, if I am writing deployment, I will have deployment spec, which is deployment specification. And then for that deployment, I'll have a status. For anything which you write in Kubernetes, you'll have two things. One is spec, the other one is status. Spec is all about telling your desired state, and status is all about Kubernetes telling you what the actual state is. Clear on that? Okay. So this object specification, there is a particular structure which you have to follow. For the object specification, there is a particular structure which you have to follow. Whenever you are using kubectl, we will specify that in YAML. Whenever you are using REST API, you will be telling your specification in a JSON format. That's it. Okay. So since we use kubectl, whereas YAML is the way, but if you are directly communicating with Kubernetes, not with kubectl, but with API, then you will be using JSON. Am I clear on this? So anything which you want to do in Kubernetes, what is that you should be able to write? You should be able to write a specification for that. You should be able to write a specification for that. And that is exactly what he is speaking about. Kubernetes object spec and object status. Okay. Right. Don't worry about it. This is basically a specification. Okay. And in this specification, he is trying to tell my kind is deployment. So this is a deployment specification. This is a deployment specification. Okay. And basically, you create a YAML file and then you say kubectl apply and give this YAML file's path. Kubernetes will start applying your specification. The moment it starts applying specification, it will basically try to do its major goal, which is whatever you have specified in desired state, it will try to make it as a reality, which is actual state. Okay. So the idea is very simple. In Kubernetes, whenever you have to work, okay. So basic workflow. Okay. 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 A little bit in this, right? And specification in YAML format. Okay. And save in a file. Now, to create, okay, or modify, then the only thing which you have to tell us kubectl apply -f. -f is path of your file. Path of let it be the pod. So then you might be writing a YAML called as a.yml. My command will be kubectl apply -f a.ym or yam. I am writing a deployment in d.yml. kubectl apply -f d.ym or yaml, whatever it is. YAML can be written in two formats, yml or yaml. Whatever format which you have written, that is what it is. Okay. And okay, to delete, okay, rather than using apply, you just basically say kubectl delete -f path of Done. So to create, apply, to delete, it is a kubectl delete command. Am I clear on this? Okay. And then if you want to get the status, to get status, kubectl get and object. So if I want to get pods information, so I might be executing something like kubectl get pods. If I want to get the information of nodes, kubectl get nodes. If I want to get the information about my deployments, kubectl get deployments. Right? So whatever it is, these are the basic commands which will help you. And 99.99% of the times you will be using these three commands itself. And they're very easy. kubectl apply -f, whatever YAML file which you have. Okay. And then kubectl delete -f, and if you want to delete whatever you have created, you can give that stuff. And kubectl basically get, and then you would basically tell what is the object kind which you are trying to use. Am I clear on this? Am I clear on this? Okay, right. So now before we basically go into and start writing the stuffs, okay, where is it? Okay. Let me get into the Kubernetes API. Okay. So whatever API which Kubernetes exposed, kubectl also will use API, but internally. You need not know this API. So whenever you say kubectl apply -f, it will go and speak with this API. Right? Tomorrow if you want to work with this API is exposed to you by using something called as Swagger. Swagger will give you documentation about it. Okay. So all of the APIs, you will have this stuff. So in this we need to understand certain things. That certain things is, your API will have a different naming convention. Sometimes you might see something like V1, Alpha 1. Okay. Something like alpha and beta terms might be available. Okay. We have to understand what that alpha means and what that beta means, but we'll go to that point at a later point. So today what we will look into is, today we'll look into the actual workloads. We'll get into something called as workloads, and for that workloads we will try to see how do I write a specification for this. For that we'll try to see how do I write a specification for this. Pods. Okay. So what is a pod? In Kubernetes, the smallest unit of creation is pod. So if you want to run a container, you cannot directly run a container over here. You have to basically run a pod. Okay. So that's basically what it means. So in Docker, you can create containers. In VMware, you can create virtual machines. In Kubernetes, what you create is pods. Okay. So basically how your pod looks like is, okay. We understood this, right? And then let us get into our first object, which I am calling it as pod. Okay. And pod is also a Kubernetes object. Pod is also a Kubernetes object, because we can store the information of Kubernetes or pod inside the etcd. What is not an object is which you cannot share the information. So literally everything in Kubernetes is an object, whatever you are going to do. Okay, but we will start with the very simple stuff, or it starts with a very simple stuff, and it is required for you because your applications are running inside the pods. If pods are not there, you don't need Kubernetes, because that is where actual execution is happening. Rest of the stuff is basically how are you packaging it. That's a difference, right? So what is a pod? Atomic unit of creation in Kubernetes. In atomic unit is, this is the smallest unit. Okay, you cannot divide this further. Okay, you cannot have half pod, 3/4 pod. No, you will create pods. Okay, so how will this pod look like? Okay, so are you seeing this? He has a pod. Okay, inside this pod he can have one or more Docker containers. It is not required that it has to be one Docker container. It has one or more Docker containers. Okay, and pod might be attached to a volume. Remember, in Docker container we attach a volume. Here we attach a volume to a pod. In Docker, container gets a network. Yes, here pod gets a network. Okay, so IP address will be given to a pod over here, not to a container. If I am running 3 containers in this pod, all the 3 will have same IP address. Am I clear on this? Okay. So what is the pod now? So in Kubernetes, what we create is, let me call this as pod. Okay. So in the pod, what you will have is, you will have all the necessary utilities. Okay. So here you might have network. If you remember namespaces, okay, mount, okay, whatever concept which you speak of, okay, and then let me write the actual things over here. Your IP, okay, right, and then your resources. I'm writing it as resources. So all of this will be given to a pod. Okay. Now inside the pod, what happens is, okay, a Docker, yeah, this is looking good. Okay. So inside the pod, I'll have my Docker containers. Okay, and remember, I can have one or more. Okay, it is not required that your pod is supposed to have one container. It can have more than one container. Okay, but over here, your pod, your containers are not getting IP addresses. Who gets the IP address? Pod. And if you want to access the container, whatever IP address which you got to the pod will be the same IP address what you get to a container. Okay. So if you are running 3 pods, all the 3 pods will get the same IP address. Now, let us assume that in one pod, can I run a Jenkins server and a Tomcat server? My answer is no. The reason is, Jenkins also requires 8080 port. Tomcat also requires 8080 port. In one machine, you cannot have 2 applications which require the same port. Am I clear on this? So number of containers fine, but ensure that they don't have port conflicts. So now, can I run an Nginx container and a Tomcat container? Nginx requires 80 and Tomcat requires 8080. There is no port conflict. Then it's okay. Because here, even though we can run multiple containers, you cannot basically, okay, have 2 containers using the same port. Am I clear on that? Okay. So ఇందులో 2 ఉండొచ్చు కంటైనర్లు, కానీ 2 కంటైనర్లు సేమ్ పోర్ట్ వాడితే మటుకు పనిచేయదు. Yes. Okay. Right. So generally, okay, it is a very good idea to have only 1 container inside a pod, not more than that. Okay. But if it is not required, your application is very old, not designed to work alone, then you can't have an option. Okay. Because when we scale in Kubernetes, in Docker, when we scale, what happened? Containers increased. In Kubernetes, when you scale, containers will not increase, pods will increase. Okay. Now, let us assume this is a story. So this is your web server. This is your DB server. When you scale, you want to scale web server. Now I put both of them in the same pod. You cannot do scaling now, because when you scale, what happens? One more pod will be created. That means that one more web server and one more DB server. What you wanted was a DB server, web server to be more. Okay, in that case, the best idea is to have web server in one pod, DB server in one pod, and scale web server pods. Am I clear on this so far? Right? So, in pod, okay, pod contains container or containers. Okay. Okay. Whenever each pod gets an IP address. Remember kube proxy? On every node we'll have something called as kube proxy, which is responsible for networking. That kube proxy is the one which is assigning an IP address to it. Okay, right. So when we have more than one container in the pod, all the containers inside the pod can be accessed over pod IP itself. Okay. Okay. And for inter-container communication within pod, అంటే pod లో కమ్యూనికేట్ చేసుకోవాలనుకోండి. ఓకే, the containers have to use localhost. So for example, you are running a web server over here, you are running a DB server over here. Now web server wants to connect to a DB server, it can access over localhost. So localhost means 0.0.0.0 in this case. Okay, or the localhost will take it to the other machine. Okay, am I clear on this? So in here what happens, two pods, if they want to communicate, they have to go via the same IP address whatever they are having. Okay, they will not be having two different IP addresses inside this also. Inside this also they have the same stuff. Am I clear on this? Yeah. Okay, so generally it is not a good design if you have more than one container in a pod. Okay, especially web and DB server in one pod is a very bad design. Okay, clear on that? I can have multiple pods. So for example, this is a web server. Let us assume this is a web server. Okay, and the responsibility of this pod is nothing to do with web, but this is a, let me call it as log agent. So the reason why I run this pod is whatever logs that are received by that are generated on this web server, I am sending it to Elasticstack, I am sending it to CloudWatch, I am sending it to some Prometheus, whatever it is. So you are using an extra pod for convenience. Okay, for maintaining this pod, that's fine, but not in such a way that, okay, I have web server and DB server in one pod, when the customer comes I'll scale it. Then you are actually not scaling it. Okay, scaling means only web should increase, but you have web and DB in the same pod and you are scaling. It is like bringing multiple virtual machines which has every application. Then you are not literally not scaling. Clear on this? Okay, so the best idea always is to have one pod. Okay, so whenever you have multi-pods, you will have one primary and you will have one secondary. Okay, main car and side car, and right. So whenever you have two pods, you will have main car container and sidecar container. Sidecar container is okay, like log agent. It is not the primary stuff in this. Main car is why you are running this pod. This is my web application. That is the terminology which they use. Okay, main car and sidecar, primary, secondary. That's what they mean. Okay, right. So over here in Kubernetes, okay, scaling is, okay, number of pods will be increased, not containers. So what do I mean by scaling is, okay, let us assume that this is your pod. Okay, so this is the pod which you are having. Okay, first let me save the image of this. Okay, so DevOps Jan 20, not Docker, Kubernetes images cube2.png. Okay, right. review dot slash images slash cube2 dot png. Okay. Now scaling pods. Okay. Means, okay, increasing pods. Okay. What doesn't mean, okay, how will I put this? Open చేద్దాం. Okay. So scaling pods is this. Okay. But not am I clear on this? This is not what a scaling pod means. Okay. And this is what the, okay. Oh. 1 minute. I messed up already. This is not what a scaling pod means. And scaling pod means increasing the number of pods. So this is how it would look like. Okay. Clear? Scaling pods is you are increasing number of pods, not really containers within a pod. Clear? Okay. So we can get inside the container, right? Docker, exec, -it and all of that stuff. Kubernetes also allows you all of that. In Docker, if you want to look at logs of your container, you will basically execute a command called as docker container logs and you will give a container ID. Kubernetes also has something called as kubectl get logs or kubectl logs, right? You will have basic management functions are same. But the whole point is you have to understand some differences. Am I clear with this? Okay. So now, so when we scale pods, what would happen? Number of pods increase, which will lead to the number of containers, not just by increasing number of containers. Yeah. So cube 3. Okay. Right. Fine. Okay. So when you have multi container pod, okay, one container would be main car, okay, others would be sidecar containers and a main car container. So whenever you read some terms, you get into some discussion. If someone is trying to tell that I want a main car container to be this and a sidecar container to be this, he's trying to tell that in your pod you are going to have multiple containers. In your pod you are going to have multiple containers. Am I clear on this so far? Okay. Now I want to write a information about a pod. So if I want to write a information about pod, I have to basically look at YAML. And I'm quite sure that you might have received a YAML link. Yes or no? Yes? Have you gone through that? Yes? For the people who have not gone through that, I am sorry already. Go and do that. Okay? కొన్ని నేను చాలా తక్కువ వెళ్ళి చేసి రమ్మంటాను. ఓకే, నిన్న చెప్పిన పని పావు గంట, ఈ యామల్ వీడియో చెప్పడానికి అరగంట, నిన్న మొత్తం రోజులో 45 నిమిషాలు లేవంటే మీ దగ్గర నేను నమ్మను. రైట్? సో ఐఎమ్ క్వైట్ షూర్ దట్ యూ కెన్ ఫైండ్ 45 minutes. ఓకే, రైట్? ఓకే. So what we will try to do is we will try to write a pod specification in the format of YAML. Clear on that? Yeah. Okay. So whenever you want to write a specification, okay, so there are other things also. I need to speak about init containers and all of that stuff, but let us not worry about it. Let us try to write a pod spec. Kubernetes pod spec. So are you seeing workloads? And right now the workload which I am looking at is pod. Okay, right. So here you need to understand certain things. You need to follow exactly the same structure which you are trying to see over here. Okay. So let me write a pod. What is your first field starting with? API version. Okay. So let me go and create a new file. New file. Okay. And since I am writing a YAML, I'll give this 3 hyphens. And then he's trying to tell that whenever you want to write, the first stuff starts with API version. Okay. I'll speak about API versions, right? But for today, even if you don't understand API versions, you can still write it. Okay. Now go and read that. So API version defines the version. Servers should have the stuff. Okay. And then schemas to the latest version. So I have to write some value over there. Okay. And then he's trying to tell that kind is a string. So the second value which I'm supposed to write is kind. Okay. And then do you want to write any metadata if you want to write it? Okay. Yeah. And then there is something called as spec. Spec is something which you will write. Okay. You are not supposed to write status. Okay. Status is something which you will get as a result of it. So whenever you want to write a Kubernetes YAML file for a pod, you have to write these 4 sections. API version, you have to write kind, you have to write metadata, and then you have to write. Okay. Right. So now, are you seeing the value over here? What is the version? Okay. And what is the kind? Okay. So you can write core/v1 also. Okay. I'll show you the example at the last. And then I am supposed to write a metadata. Okay. If you click on this link, always use control click. Okay. Whenever you are using this documentation, open in a new tab always whenever you see a link, because it will be easy. Okay. I am supposed to write a metadata. మీరా ఫోన్ అరిచింది? Okay. Okay. So he's trying to tell that if you want to write a metadata also has a version, and the kind is meta1. Okay. Come down. And then he's trying to tell that if you want to write metadata, I have something called as annotations, cluster name, and all of that stuff. Okay. So whenever you want to write anything, you have to come and search like this itself. So right now, for this class at least, I'll remove the complexity of metadata. Okay. So I'm not worried about metadata at this moment. Okay. And then what is it I have to look out for? Pod spec. So I'll do control click again. So today, this is your job. Just go to these pages, right or wrong, don't worry about it. Try to write a file about it. Because if you get yourself used to this kind of a way, right? Tomorrow, even if a new Kubernetes object comes into play, and if you want to write a YAML file, you will follow the same stuff. You will go into that API reference, you will click on the links, and then you will try to start writing everything. So in here, active deadline seconds. What is it trying to tell? Optional duration in seconds. Anything which is sounding optional today I am not going to use. Okay. So affinity, if specified, which means if specified, it will do something. I don't want to specify it. Okay. Today we'll go with a very simple approach. Let us learn how to write the basic template first. Okay. And then automatic service account token. Okay. Automatic service token indicates that the service account should be automatically mounted. We will not have a service account itself. Okay. So then he's trying to tell about containers. List of containers belonging to a pod. This is something which we have learnt about. So I have said just now, saying that pod will have containers. Now he is trying to tell that, okay, if you want to write, containers cannot be currently be added or removed. There must be at least one container in a pod. Okay. So What is the section's name? Containers. So in the specification, I'll come down, I'll give 2 spaces, and I'll write something called as containers. And what is he trying to tell? That containers is an array. Okay. So whenever anything is an array in YAML, okay, the child items of it will have something called as hyphen. Okay. Today you go through that YAML file. Tomorrow I'll speak about those conventions. Okay. Right. So are you seeing, whenever you are seeing an array, you are basically looking at it as hyphen. Okay. And then to write each container, he's trying to tell that you have to click on this container. Just open this. Okay, I know it will be sounding difficult, but don't worry about it. I could have shown the example like what many people do, and then I would have used that example. But the problem with that is, you will be able to only execute the example. I want you to build this YAML file. That's where we are taking this difficult route. ఇది కష్టమైన అవసరమైతే 3 రోజులు దీని కూడా మాట్లాడు. But you should be able to write your own YAML file by doing what I am doing. Right? Yes. Okay. So now in this, what is it trying to tell? Arguments. Okay. So if you remember arguments to the entry point. Okay. So Docker container run -it. Okay. Or Docker container run Tomcat. Okay. After that, whatever you provide is basically an argument. Okay. Do you want to override the command? No, I don't want to. Do you have any environmental variables which you want to pass? Remember, yesterday we have run Docker container run. Okay. -e db underscore ip equal to 127.0.0.1, and it was overriding that environmental variables. So from Kubernetes, if you want to specify environmental variables, you can do this. I don't want to. Okay. Environment from, if you have environmental variables in some other place, then what it is? Image. To run the Docker container, do I need an image? Yes. So I'll basically see a image, and name of my container, what should I put? What was the easier one? Let me go with Jenkins. Jenkins :1.609.2. Remember, you have run this. Okay. So what is that I have said? My image name is this. Okay. Right. And then where the image pull policy, I don't want to change anything. Okay. So what is the life cycle? We don't know what a life cycle is yet, so I'm not touching that. Okay. And then he is asking me to write a name. So I'm writing name. So name of my container will be Jenkins. Name of my container will be Jenkins. Okay. Why we use names? Secondary story. Okay. And then it speaks about ports. If you want to expose the ports, you can use this. Today I'm not going to expose. Right. So, and then if you go in, there are not many fields that are left, which we require. Tomorrow, if I'm mounting volumes, I might use this volume modes. Today, I don't want to get into all of that complication. So, is this YAML looking very difficult to write? Okay. I'll do this again. Okay. Now, let us assume that I want to run a Kubernetes pod. Right? Kubernetes pod with 2 containers in it. Okay. One is basically Nginx container, the other one is Jenkins. So let me write one more file name. So what is it I'm supposed to write? I'm supposed to write a pod. Pod is a YAML file. So generally we start a YAML file with 3 hyphens. Then I'll go to the Google, and then I'll say I'm interested in Kubernetes pod specifications. Once I learn about pod specification, I'll come to this page. And this page says that you have to start with something called as. This time I'll tell you another story. Are you seeing kubectl example? Click on this. But initially I don't want to show you this. Okay. So even if you have done something wrong, there is some example over here to help you out. So not interested in that. Okay. So API version is v1 and kind. So what is the kind mentioned over here? Remember, you cannot even change the casing of it. If you write it with small p, it will fail. Pod lo p small case lo petna it fail avutundi. You have to do the exact thing, right? And then I am not interested in metadata, but I am interested in specification. So specification. Okay. And in specification, is trying to tell that the structure is pod spec. I open that pod spec, and if I open that pod spec, I'll end up over here. In the pod spec, I have to tell about my containers. So are you seeing containers? Okay. So I'll say in the pod spec, I'm trying to tell you about one, two containers. Okay. And in containers, this time I'm trying to tell that I have two containers. So hyphen. Okay. Let me not write hyphen name. Two hyphens means two containers. Two hyphens means two containers. Okay. Then to write each container, you will say that how do I write a container structure? You will click on this. Then you will go over here. Now to write a container, it is trying to tell you that your example looks something like this. And everywhere you will have kubectl example in most of the cases. Okay. Right. So over here, what is that we need to run in a container? A name of the image, a name of the container, and image which we are trying to use. Okay. So I'll use name. Okay. Name of this container, I'll call it as my nginx and image. Okay. So image, I think we have nginx. Let me go to Docker Hub. Okay. So we have nginx. Okay. So to run this, what is that we will do? Docker container run -d nginx. Port forwarding, if you want to do, you might use -p, right? Today I'm not doing port forwarding, so let us not worry about it. So your way of telling Docker container run, okay, -d nginx hyphen name my nginx equal to is this. So writing this is equivalent to that nginx. I should have given the right version, but that's okay. So I'll give name. So I want to run the second container in this. So I'll call it as my Jenkins. Okay. And then images. Jenkins. Am I clear on this? So I would expect you know how to build this YAML file rather than remember this YAML file. What majority of the people do a mistake is they try to remember the YAML files. Yeah. Don't do that. Okay. It is very easy once you understand this structure. But before that, you have to know that YAML structure. Okay. Today, at least spend some time on the YAML video which you got, where I speak about 4 data types of YAML. Okay. Whenever you are entering a text, whenever you enter a number, whenever you enter a boolean, how do you do that? And whenever you enter an array, how do you do that? And whenever you enter an object, how do you do that? So in some cases, I am using hyphens. In some cases, I am not using hyphens. Right? So please go through that video, and then you look back at this structure, you will be able to make it. So was this very difficult to write? No. Okay. So what we'll do is now let us get into my AWS. And remember, we had a kube admin cluster which we have created and all that stuff. Okay. So there is a Kubernetes playground also. Try that. But if it is not working, I am not guaranteed, because there are a lot of failures in Kubernetes playground. It is not as stable as Docker playground. If it is working for you, wonderful. If you don't want to install Kubernetes, you can play with that. But in the classroom, I'll be using the installed version of Kubernetes because it is much stable than Kubernetes playground. Okay. So what is the machine which we'll be speaking with? Node, right? Master only, right? Because where is API server? Thank you. Okay. So there is one more configuration. Okay. Your kubectl speaks with API server, and your kubectl need not be on master. It can be installed on other machine also. Tomorrow your Jenkins machine will have a kubectl. Your Kubernetes master might be on some other machine. Okay. So kubectl, what Kubernetes master it is configured to depends on which server you are trying to speak with. But today our configuration is our master and kubectl both are present on the same machine. That's the reason why I'm logging in into master to enable this communication. Yeah. Okay. Tomorrow when we go to AWS cloud or Azure cloud, if you remember, I said that in that clouds masters are not managed by you. Cloud does that management. In that case, what we do is we install kubectl and we connect that kubectl to the master. Okay. And wherever you install kubectl, you will be able to run the commands from there. That's the whole point. Okay. Right. So let me click on this. Okay. So the first command which I should be able to execute is kubectl get nodes to see whether both all my cluster is up or not. So kubectl get. Okay. Are both in ready state? Yes. Okay. Right. Now I have written some YAML file over here. So let me take this YAML file. Okay. And then I'll create make dir pods. So cd pods and let me create a file called as hello world dot YAML or YML, choice is yours because both are YAML files. Okay. And in this I am blindly pasting this. Okay. So there might be some errors also because you have tried to build, there might be some errors. It's okay. Okay. Don't fear errors. If you get the errors, that's the point where you are trying to learn something because you are attempting something. Okay. So kubectl, what is the command which I said? Apply -f and my file is hello world dot. Yeah. So what is it trying to tell? So you have error while retrieving the current configuration. Okay. What is it trying to tell? Kind is equal to pod. Okay. And I am not finding some information. Your resource name might be empty. So you might have missed something. Okay. Let us see what is that we have missed. Now you have this YAML file, right? Okay. Go to this page. Okay. Where we started our pod and see the example. Okay. It says that it is mandatory for you to write a metadata because in metadata you have to tell what is your pod's name. Am I clear on this? That is what I have missed. So for now what I'll do is I'll copy this. Okay. Okay. It will take some time for you to understand the error messages of Kubernetes. They are not simple, they are strange. Okay. But you have to get used to it. Okay. Now I'll tell hello pod. Am I clear on this? So name of my pod, I just need not, it is not necessary for me to just give name of the containers. I have to give name to the pod also. Okay. Now that is one mistake which you have identified. See, you write something, compare it with the existing YAML, then you will learn something. అసలు రాత్రమే వేరే వాడు రాసేసి చూసి రాస్తే ఇంకేమవుతుంది? Yes? Okay. Right. Now let me do vi hello world. సినిమా కొంచెం పెద్దది, ఇది మొగలే ఆజం సినిమా, టైం పడుతుంది. Right. Now let us try to reapply. Okay. So don't fear the failures. That's the whole point which I want to tell. In Kubernetes you will get hell lot of failures. In Docker you might not have even got the errors. అసలు error అంటే ఏంటో తెలిసి ఉండదు Docker లో. Right? If you really want to understand what errors are, start working on Kubernetes. But for you to get to a position where you are able to resolve to the errors, it takes time. Okay. That's the reason why I am not directly writing YAML files. Yeah. So let me basically say kubectl apply -f and then hello world dot. Yeah. It says your pod has been created. Now let me say kubectl get pods. So what is it trying to tell? Status is still in creation. And I said that whenever you want to understand anything which can change, use hype. There is still some problem. Okay. Fine. Let it be problem. I'm okay. It has done something. Okay. Right. Did it change the running state? It has taken some time, depending on for whatever reasons which it is. Right? So now cube CTL get pods. Okay, if you want more information, you can use something called as -o void. For this, please don't try to remember these commands. Use kubectl cheat sheet. Kubernetes cheat sheet. For Docker, I have asked you to use a Docker cheat sheet, right? For Kubernetes, please use a Kubernetes cheat sheet. Don't try to remember commands. Okay, there is no need for you to remember the stuff. Okay, now let us come back to the earlier one. So over here, what is it I forgot? I forgot to write metadata, and in metadata I have to write something called as name, and this I'll tell this as okay learning. Okay, my pod's name is learning. So shall I run one more? Yes. So vi learning dot yml. Okay, yml or yaml, they are the same thing. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now I'll basically say cube ctl apply -f and then it says created. Now if you want to verify, what will you do? Kubectl get pods -o void. And if you see container is creating. Okay. So if container is creating, what is a better way to watch it? -double. Wait till the container gets into the running state. Okay. O void will tell you where your container is running also. Okay, is it in running state? Yes. So whenever you want to watch a particular command because there is some change that is going to happen in Kubernetes, you can use -double. Clear on this? Okay. So how to write a specification now? Okay. So just try to see what is an object which you are building. Okay. Go to the specification. See what are the different fields. Okay. So every field will have two different things. Okay. No matter whatever object which you are going to in the Kubernetes, okay, it will have API version, it will have kind, it will have metadata, and it will have specification. Okay. You go to any object. Tomorrow, whenever you are writing a deployment also, we will write API version. The value of API version might change. Kind. Today, kind's value for us was pod because we are building a pod. Okay. Metadata. Metadata, it was required for us to just write a name. In some objects, it might be more than name. Okay. And then specification. What is that? Your desired status. Okay. What is that you want to create? Okay. That is what a specification is all about. So shall I write about this? Yeah. Okay. Let's try to create pod specification. Okay. Refer to pod specification from here. It is very hard to document this, but I am just giving the high level pod specifications link. Okay. This okkate istanu. Ikkada nundi clicking, you just find it out. I'll not be able to write all of that. Okay. So refer to. Okay. What are the other areas which I have to worry about? I have to worry about metadata. I have to worry about spec. I have to worry about specification. Okay. And also I have to worry about kind. What is the value which I need to fill in a kind? And also I have to worry about API version. Okay. So from the reference, try to fill the values in a YAML file. Okay. Then it would sound something like, I'm just writing the simple one. First let us run one container. I have just shown you two examples in the classroom, but over here, yes, and then okay, login into kubeadm master and execute kubectl apply -f learning dot Okay. And after that, watch for changes. Watch for status with changes. So for this, you will be executing cube ctl get pods hyphen. Okay. Then you should see your container is running. Am I clear on this? Okay. I have written 2 in the classroom, but in the notes I have shared only 1. Okay. The second one you try to recreate. I have used an image called as Nginx and Jenkins. You try to run something else. You try to write something else. There are many Docker images, right? So am I clear on this? So in pod, can I run 3 containers now? Yes. So for if there are 3 containers, what is it I have to write? Rather than writing 2 hyphens over here, put 3 hyphens and give 3 Docker images. Yes. Clear on this? Okay. Today pod will have container. Every pod will have one IP address. Okay. So if you want to get the IP address of the pod, okay, get full info. Okay. We still have other command, but we have to get into this. Okay. Of pods by saying kubectl get pods hyphen o wide. Output is wide. Hyphen o is output. Okay. So now if you basically say kubectl get pods hyphen output is not wider. It is wide. Okay. So if you are seeing over here, hello pod has an IP address of 10.44.0.1. Learning pod has an IP address of, and it is running on a machine with a node with the IP at node's name is this. Okay. Because we have only one node at this moment. Right. So right now, if you remember our kubeadmin installation, we had master and one node. If you have 2 nodes, it would have gone on a different machine. So right now it doesn't have a chance. Whatever you want to run will be over here. And now if you want to delete, what is that you will do? Kubectl delete, okay, hyphen f. Okay, you can give a name also. But today let us go with the file based completely. Okay. So learning dot. Are you saying learning pod is deleted? Okay, it will take some time to come to return the terminal. Similarly, if you want to delete the other pod, what will you do? Kubectl delete hyphen f and hello world or whatever file which we have written. So kubectl delete hyphen f and hello world dot YAML. Simple. Okay. So after this, okay, once you have done that, delete the pods and your command is kubectl delete hyphen f learning dot YAML. Am I clear on this? Right? Okay. So today try this. Today I want all of you to build your own YAML file. Even if you get errors, it's absolutely okay. Okay? You will get errors. You are doing this for the first time. First time anni జరిగిపోవడానికి మనకి శక్తులు లేవు, తప్పులు జరుగుతాయి. With that mistakes itself we will learn a lot of things. Right? Okay. Fine then. So, right. The pod is nothing but a container inside pod will have containers. Pod is not nothing. If pod in the case of Docker Swarm, task was nothing because it was a logical entity. Here it is a physical entity. Who is getting an IP address? Pod. Who is getting a volume? Pod. And pod gives that to your containers. So pod is actually some entity in Kubernetes. Unlike tasks in Docker Swarm. Right? Okay. Right. Pod spec skip. Docker file and build a part. Okay. I didn't got skipped Docker file and Vinod, I didn't got your question. Right. So it is not skipped actually. Your Docker image should already be existing. And then you are trying to run your pod, right, by basically telling what is the specification of it. Rather than building a Docker container run command, you are writing a specification. Put it in that way. Yeah, let us put it in that way. Okay. Where can we check whether the container is present or not? Okay. So, ఇవాళ పాటలు చెక్ చేయండి చాలు, రైట్? కంటైనర్ కూడా రేపు చెప్తాను. ఓకే, నేను చెప్పింది మీరు చేస్తే, నేను నిన్న ఒక ప్రశ్న అడిగాను కదా, అప్పుడు దానికి సమాధానం మీరు చెప్పుంటే దీనికి సమాధానం నేను చెప్పేవాడిని. నేను చెప్పిన పని మీరు చేయనప్పుడు అది ఎలా చెక్ చేస్తాం? ఇలాంటి కోరికలు ఎందుకు అనవసరంగాని? అంతే కదా. చెప్పినవి చేస్తే అడిగే అధికారం ఉంటుంది. చెప్పింది ఒక అమ్మాయి చేసింది, సో ఆ అమ్మాయికే చెప్తాను నేను. సో ఫస్ట్ ప్లీజ్ స్టాప్ థింకింగ్ టూ మచ్, రైట్? యు ఆర్ నాట్ డూయింగ్ బేసిక్ వర్క్ ఆల్సో. ట్రై టు ఫినిష్ దట్, ప్రూవ్ మీ ఐ ఆమ్ రాంగ్, దెన్ ఐ విల్ టెల్ యూ వాట్ ఎవర్ యూ ఆస్క్. యా, ఓకే. నేను చెప్పింది ఒకే ఒక చిన్న పని, 2 సార్లు రన్ చేయమని. ఐ ఆస్క్డ్ యూ టు రన్ టూ సింపుల్ థింగ్స్ అగైన్. ఓకే, వన్ వాస్ ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్, అదర్ వన్ వాస్ ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్. ఓకే, సో అవి చేయకుండా అసలు మీకు డాక్టర్ ఇంటర్వ్యూ ఎంతవరకు వెళ్దో, రైట్? సో దీని గురించి ఆలోచించకండి. ఈవెన్ ఇఫ్ యూ ఆర్ ఫైండింగ్ ఇన్సల్టెడ్, ఐఎమ్ ఓకే, దట్ ఈస్ మై ఇంటెన్షన్ టుడే. ఓకే, బికాస్ ఫస్ట్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు హ్యావ్ యువర్ ఫౌండేషన్ స్ట్రాంగ్, right? So if you don't understand how environment and argument works in a Docker container, since we know about Docker container run command, you can understand how you have to write a pod specification. If you don't know how to pass an environment, how will you pass environments from Kubernetes? Right? That's the whole point. So today, you might not basically like the way I am trying to tell. Even that is my intention. Okay? సో మీకు నేను చెప్పింది నచ్చకపోయినా, మీరు అడిగిన ప్రశ్నలు నేను సమాధానం ఎందుకు చెప్పదలుచుకోలేదంటే మీరు నేను చెప్పింది చేయలేదు కాబట్టి. అది చేసి నాకు కనబడింది అన్నీ చెప్తా. ఓకే, ఎందుకంటే అది చేస్తే మీకు మీ మీద నవ్వు వస్తుంది. దాని సమాధానం మీకు తెలిసిన రోజున, ఓకే, తెలిసిన క్షణాన్న మీకు మీ మీద నవ్వు వస్తుంది. ఓకే, ద డే యూ ఫైండ్ అవుట్ ద ఆన్సర్, వాట్ ఈస్ ద ఆన్సర్ టు దట్ క్వశ్చన్ విచ్ ఐ వాస్డ్, యూ విల్ బి laughing on yourself, right? That's the reason. It is that simple. Okay, right? So do that, then we'll worry about future, right? Yeah, కొన్నిసార్లు తప్పదండి, నేను ఇలాగే చేయాలి, ఇంకేం చేస్తా, స్కూల్ పిల్లల్లాగా అయిపోయింది ఆ పరిస్థితి. ఓకే, వెన్ ఐ సే దట్ డూ దిస్, ఐ ఫీల్ దట్ యు ఆర్ రెస్పాన్సిబుల్ టువర్డ్స్ యువర్ కెరియర్. ఎందుకు చేయలేదంటే, సార్ నిన్న మా ఇంటికి చుట్టాలు వచ్చారండి, రైట్? ఇప్పుడు అదో బాధ చెప్తారా? ఇంకో రకం, ఇంకో సెకండ్ కేటగిరీ ఆఫ్ పీపుల్, సార్ నాకు ఉద్యోగం లేదు, చుట్టాలు ఇంటికి వెళ్ళాలంటే భయం వేస్తున్నాడు. అసలు వాళ్ళు వెళ్తాం ఎందుకు, వాళ్ళని పిలుత్తం ఎందుకు, వాళ్ళు రావటం ఎందుకు, ఈ దరిద్రం అంతా ఎందుకు, రైట్? So yesterday I have spoken with couple of people. So they didn't got, they are freshers, they have finished 6 months, but they were very concerned. Then I asked, where is pressure? Is pressure in your home or in your society? No sir, in our home everything is fine, but in society everyone is asking, what is that you are doing and what is that you are doing. Let them ask for 6 months, man, ignore it. డూ ఇట్ ద రైట్ వే. ఇప్పుడు ఆడు అడుగుతున్నాడని చెప్పి రేపు ఉద్యోగం తెచ్చుకొని మళ్ళీ మర్నాడు పోతే ఆడు ఇంకా దరిద్రంగా చెప్తాడు. పెద్ద గొప్పోళ్ళకి వెళ్ళాడు ఉద్యోగానికి, 2-3 రోజులు వెనక్కి వచ్చాడంట, తీసారంట, రైట్? రాలేదంట గౌరవప్రదం, తీసేశారంట చిరాగ్గా ఉంటది. నవ్ యూ డిసైడ్ వాట్ యువర్ సొసైటీ వాంట్స్ టు స్పీక్. ఓకే, ఇంకా పాపం రాలేదు బెటరా, ఆడు వెళ్ళాడంట ఆడు తీసాడు బెటరా? ఓకే, నవ్ యూ డిసైడ్ what it is. So for the people who didn't understood what I said, okay, जॉब नहीं आया उसको, ये सोसाइटी बोलना ठीक है, उसको जॉब से निकाल दिया, ये बोलना ठीक है. आप सोच लो, अगर जॉब नहीं आया ठीक लगता है, उसमें थोड़ा बहुत सिंपैथी रहता है, कभी ना कभी चलो बंदे को जॉब नहीं लग रहा है, चलो ठीक है, ओके, बट जॉब निकाल दिया उसको, this will be like what Modi does to Pakistan, man. Come fight, man. We are very huge, right? Modi fighting with Pakistan is like, truck on the highway, right? And Chetak is going, and you are irritating him, saying that I'll kill you, man, and you'll obviously kill him, man. How big you are, right? That's like that. Okay, now you understand what it is. So whether you want sympathy, right? So try to work it out. Okay, don't worry about just because there is another category of people. I discuss మీ కేసు మీకు కొత్తగా అనిపించవచ్చు. జనరల్ గా when people speak with me, you might find your case peculiar and you are the only person who is suffering from this. I speak with lot of people. With that I am trying to tell. Okay, there are 3 categories of people. Okay, one, people who join the course because they want the job. Okay, everyone does that, right? Then what is one category? They join the course, they don't do anything, they want job. That is the category which I'm trying. Just because they have joined the course, they should get a job. That is not happening. Okay. Second category of people, they work hard, but they still don't go to interviews because they have fear of failure. Third category, who will have very bad opinions about or some influences. Okay, they will have some cousin or brother who might be working in a support project who says that, okay, in IT will not have anything, man. I'll sit 6 hours quiet for a day. Some ticket comes, I'll resolve. Every month on the first date of month, I'm getting a salary. Right? All of these three are not true. Right? So you will never be able to predict what you are supposed to, right? And నేను ఇన్నిసార్లు డాకర్ జెన్కిన్స్ జరిగినప్పుడే మీ మీద ఇలాంటి ప్రెషర్ ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది నా దగ్గర నుండి ఆలోచించండి, రైట్? వై వెల్ ఇఫ్ యూ హ్యావ్ అండర్స్టూడ్ మై కాన్వర్సేషన్స్ వెరీ వెల్ అండ్ ఇఫ్ యూ హ్యావ్ బేసికల్ అండర్స్టూడ్ వైల్ జెన్కిన్స్ ఈస్ హ్యాపెనింగ్ and while docker is happening, you will have this kind of pressure from me, right? The only reason for that is without that you cannot even become a cloud engineer or a DevOps engineer if you are not strong on Jenkins and not strong on Docker. If you are strong on Jenkins, no matter whatever tool which they use, you will understand pipelines, right? If you understand Docker and Kubernetes, you will be understanding the future because everyone wants to work on containers and Kubernetes, right? That's where I'm trying to tell you very simple stuff. And if I give you an exercise in these two things, please follow that. That is for your career. Migatai మీ ఇష్టం, మీరు నేర్చుకున్నా నేర్చుకోకపోయినా, that is your choice. These are extremely important, right? One is very important for you to do whatever you are doing. Second one, this Docker and Kubernetes, having a deeper idea might take you to the next place. Every company wants to start here. They don't have a person who has an overall system perspective. They know some people who can write specifications, right? But they don't know how that Kubernetes works. If something goes wrong in Kubernetes, how to troubleshoot. No one knows that, right? So that is a position which if you get fitted into, then you will have a very long career, right? Like, that's the whole point. That's why I'm asking you to do it. So please do the activities. And today the job is first find out what that silly failure was. And second thing is try to write a pod spec on your own. I am not trying to write a working pod spec. Mere pod spec pan cheyakapoyina parla. It's okay. But try to attempt writing. If you have any problem in writing that pod spec by doing what I have done, we will discuss this tomorrow also. Okay, because you should be able to write the pod spec by looking at that reference pages. That's the whole intention. Am I clear on this? Okay, today definitely try that. Okay, and there are Kubernetes articles which I have given in our direct DevOps blog. Okay, or you have earlier classroom notes. There is a lot of information, so we have a lot of things. The only thing which we need to do is we need to find out our first foundation steps rightly. Okay, I think we have done that for Docker. Let us do the same thing for Kubernetes. Right? Fine then. Thanks.